once visible for miles from land, sea, and air. Now, only smoke from the battered Twin Towers looming over New York.
We're at war. There's been an act of war declared upon America by terrorists.
He's not mincing words. George W. Bush prepares America for a prolonged anti-terrorism campaign.
And bagpipes wailing a tribute to men who sacrificed their lives in the line of duty.
From the CNN Center in Atlanta, I'm Elitsa Vasilova.
And I'm Jim Clancy. This is CNN's continuing coverage of America's new war. Well, crews in Lower Manhattan have located a chilling clue. They've discovered a passport belonging to one of the suspected hijackers. It was found several blocks from the crash site, prompting investigators to widen the search area. In another development Saturday, the FBI said it had arrested a second person on a material witness warrant. And meanwhile, rescue, recovery, and cleanup crews are working full steam through the night. The list of the missing has swelled to nearly 5,000. 159 bodies have been recovered from the devastated site. The Justice Department releasing more information about the alleged hijackers and the terrorist network thought to have sponsored Tuesday's attacks. CNN has obtained photos of 8 of those suspected hijackers. From American Airlines Flight 11, which hit the World Trade Center's North Tower, Mohammed Atta, Walid al-Shehri, Abdul Aziz al-Omari, and Walid al-Shehri. From the United Airlines Flight 175, which hit the World Trade Center's South Tower, Marwan al-Shehhi. And from United Airlines Flight 93, which crashed in rural Pennsylvania, Saeed al-Ghamdi, Ahmed al-Haznawi, and Ziad Samir Jarrah.
187 people are now missing and presumed dead in the attack on the Pentagon. U.S. defense officials say the damage to the structure will be in the hundreds of millions of dollars. They say they don't expect to find anyone alive in the rubble. On Saturday, the Pentagon announced the first confirmed death in the attack. Edward Thomas Earhart of Salt Lake, Kentucky, was 26 years old. And the latest on the Pentagon investigation now, 2 suspected hijackers aboard the plane that slammed into the Pentagon were already under U.S. government surveillance. Authorities say one of them was seen on a surveillance tape meeting with a suspect in the bombing of the USS Cole.
The Cole bombing, of course, took place last October in Yemen. Suicide bombers in a small boat pulled up alongside the ship, saluted, and then detonated their charges.
U.S. officials said from the start that they suspected associates of Osama bin Laden. Eileen O'Connor takes a look now at the Cole connection.
They booked the tickets on American Airlines Flight 77 from Washington to Los Angeles on Travelocity, using a New Jersey address, mailboxes, etc. And names U.S. officials confirm were known to them: Khalid al-Midhar and Salim al-Hamzi. Once on board, together with al-Hamzi's brother and an old roommate, a known pilot, they took over the flight, crashing it into the Pentagon. Within minutes, the facade of a symbol of American strength crumbled. As the search and rescue efforts continue, sources say the FBI was informed that Khalid al-Midhar and Salim al-Hamzi were associated with Osama bin Laden and the bombing of the USS Cole. One source confirms they had concrete evidence al-Midhar had met with a man who was later involved in the attack on the Cole.
One was kind of short and the other 2 was tall.
Al-Midhar was a frequent visitor of al-Hamzi and his brother Nawak in the San Diego apartment complex.
They was always together. If they left, they was together. They come back, they're together.
They hung out a lot at the pool, despite telling their neighbors they were studying at a nearby college.
You'll see 3 of them in the pool swimming, or you'll see the dude always looking out the window, another one outside the door on the phone.
At one point, they left, telling one landlord they were in Arizona, living in different cities at different addresses. As it turns out, rooming with another hijacker aboard that plane, Hani Hanjour. Hani attended this flying school, CRM, Cockpit Resource Management, but left without a certification.
He's kind of a waste of time. He wouldn't show up for flights on time, didn't do his homework.
Not a promising student, but skilled enough to carry out the mission. Eileen O'Connor, CNN, Washington.
The U.S. Defense Department is mobilizing to secure potential targets throughout the U.S. Military leaders are calling it Operation Noble Eagle. CNN's Mark Potter joins us now from the Pentagon in Washington. Mark.
Good morning, Ralitza. There's a report today in the Washington Post that's causing a lot of interest here at the Pentagon. It says that Pentagon officials were caught by surprise by the hijacked jet that crashed into the building last Tuesday. According to the newspaper, the Federal Aviation Administration told the nation's military air defense command that a hijacked plane was heading toward Washington. That was 12 minutes before the plane hit the Pentagon. Fighter jets were scrambled immediately. But according to the paper, the Washington Post, at the Pentagon, Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld and his top aides were unaware of the potential danger until the impact of the plane. And those in charge of guarding the building were not told and didn't order an evacuation. This morning, a spokesman for the U.S. Air Force would not comment on that report. Now, here at the Pentagon this morning, workers continue to dig through the rubble, searching for victims as they have been doing for several days, 24 hours a day. They're shoring up the building. The search for the victims progresses. And earlier, the Pentagon released another video, a very dramatic video that was shot by a tech sergeant from the Air Force on the day that the plane hit, right after the plane hit, and it shows the building collapsing in on itself in the area hit by the plane. They also released a video showing the inside of the structure, showing the massive damage. It also provides evidence of the human toll, proving, of course, what we know, that people were working here at the time that the plane hit. The jet struck an area of the Pentagon that had just been renovated and had been reinforced, and officials say that was fortuitous because it reduced the damage and may have saved many lives.
This was a terrible tragedy, and people lost their lives. But I'm here to tell you that had we not undertaken this effort in the building, this could have been much, much worse.
Now, the death toll here is believed to be 188. That's 124 personnel from the Pentagon, 64 passengers aboard the airliner. Now, grieving families of the victims were allowed to come by the Pentagon crash site, and they were escorted in. They were brought in buses, escorted by police, and taken care of by military officials. They were allowed to leave flowers and mementos at the site, near the site, and for many it appeared to be a very emotional moment. Meanwhile, the Pentagon prepares to call up 35,000 reservists for what it is calling Operation Noble Eagle, a mission to provide homeland defense and disaster relief. Back to you.
Mark, we heard President Bush telling Americans to prepare for war. There are warnings about risks that lie ahead, not only for the American troops that might be involved, but also for American civilians. What kind of preparations are being made for their protection?
Well, we don't really know that. We know that the Pentagon is working on this issue, of course, as you might expect, but the details are few and far between. We are not getting into any indication that that an attack is imminent, but we are being told that the Pentagon it expects that it is a mission that could take casualties. That's been a concern in the past, and a reason not to have extended military campaigns. But this time, because this was an attack on the United States, military officials are telling CNN that it is acceptable to receive casualties. It is something that would not thwart them in an extended and long-term campaign. Excuse me. Back to you.
Mark, thank you. And President Bush met with members of his national security team at Camp David Saturday to discuss the U.S. response to Tuesday's attacks. Speaking at the meeting, the president's message was unequivocal.
They will try to hide that we're at war. There's been an act of war declared upon America by terrorists, and we will respond accordingly. And I appreciate very much the American people understanding that.
In his weekly radio address, Mr. Bush said he was planning a broad and sustained campaign, but asked the American people to be patient. Jim.
Ralitza, President Bush also said that Osama bin Laden would be, in his words, sorely mistaken if he thinks he can hide from the United States. Mr. Bush also called him the prime suspect, but then later took care to point out other groups may be involved. For more on the Bush team's focus this weekend, let's turn now to Major Garrett. He's in Washington. Major.
Jim, the Bush team's focus is many-layered, multi-dimensional, reviewing target lists, reviewing military options with his top national security advisors. Also, the president is monitoring on a regular basis new developments in the investigation. He met, as you said, this morning with his top national security advisors. Also, the Attorney General, John Ashcroft, all of them providing the latest information to the president. And there's also a very significant effort underway to enlarge the coalition to support this war the president said is about to be declared against global terrorism. There were some encouraging signs for the Bush administration on a couple of fronts on Saturday. One, conversation between the president and Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf to discuss Pakistan's pledge of full cooperation with the United States, including providing vital human intelligence about the possible whereabouts of Osama bin Laden and airspace, should it be required for any military strike the United States might in fact want to carry out within the borders of Afghanistan. Also, the president talked to the presidents of Spain and Mexico, part of his ongoing effort to include other nations in the ever-enlarging coalition the United States hopes to unleash against the perpetrators of the terrorist acts on Tuesday. And in talking to reporters at Camp David, the president said not only that the nation is at war, but that he promised victory in that war.
We're at war. There's been an act of war declared upon America by terrorists, and we will respond accordingly. And I appreciate very much the American people understanding that. As we plan, as we put our strategy into action, we will let you know when we think it's appropriate, not only for to protect the lives of our servicemen and women, but to make sure our coalition has had proper time to be noticed as well. But we're going to act.
Jim, that response from the president was from persistent questions from reporters out at Camp David about the specifics of military options being weighed. The White House has made clear it's not ruling out anything, not ruling out any military option, including the use of ground troops. And there's also a significant statement the president made there about making sure coalition partners are given advance notice. That's significant in part because on Saturday, the Arab League said it would cooperate and support U.S. military efforts provided it receives some advance notice of what those military efforts in fact would be. Jim?
Major Garrett, there's a lot of questions from people that are being called upon in order to participate in that coalition. One of the major questions seems to be, what are the terms that the Bush administration is laying out here? First of all, let's handle this one. There seems to be a sense that there's a take it, you're either with us or you're against us. And there's a sense here that if you don't participate in this coalition, you could find yourself isolated from this administration. True?
Absolutely true, Jim.